Today we're going to be interviewing college students at Harvard University. And then my last question goes back to Bernie Sanders, who you mentioned earlier. Have you heard of his plan? He announced like maybe a week ago or so, he would eliminate all $1.6 trillion of student debt.
I did, yes. I have been following that story. And it's definitely a really exciting thought. I mean, debt is just like a really hard thing to carry. And I was very lucky in that, I think I graduated without, any loans, which is, from what I hear, like very rare in this country. And so I definitely imagine, like if people did not have to worry about, having to pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars off, like what possibilities would that open? Mm-hmm. For them, what possibilities would it open for, the ideas and like projects and like things people could work on if they weren't, bound by, the money that they owed to, like the government or to schools.
Yeah.
So specifically about Bernie Sanders, we were also going to ask this question about his proposal to cancel all student debt, the 1.6 trillion of it. What do you think about that, like its implications on society, if it would be good?
I think ultimately it would be a good thing if done right. We are currently facing an entire generation of people who are facing crushing debt, and that is just not good for an economy. It's not good for a country, and it's not good for our future.
And then we're going to ask you about Bernie Sanders' recent proposal to eliminate student debt in the U.S. It's about $1.6 trillion. What do you think about that?
I think that it sounds very good. I think that eliminating student debt is something that is very needed. I think it's something that resonates with a lot of young people today. However, I haven't heard him name anything super concrete, like a really concrete plan as to how he's going to get it done. I frankly don't think any conservatives would think about it at all. I think that it doesn't really take into account taxpayers' opinions. Mm-hmm. I'm all for it. I'm all for eliminating student debt, but at the same time, you're going against Trump. And if you are going to say something that absolutely no one is going to agree with who is on Trump's side, then I just don't think that there's any way that you're going to get elected.
Yeah.
Our last question is about a plan that Senator Bernie Sanders released a few weeks ago. It would eliminate all student debt in the U.S. I think it's like $1.6 trillion. Do you have any strong thoughts or opinions on that?
Well, it sounds good, but how are we going to pay for it?
Yeah, he would say just further taxes on Wall Street and big businesses and stuff like that.
Okay, well, I have to confess that my knowledge about economics is quite limited. So I don't know about that. I would have a different proposal in that matter. I think it would be good to bring down the incarceration rate in the United States. Because every inmate costs around, I think, $40,000 a year, and the incarceration rates are much higher than, for example, in Europe, and that will pay a lot of fees.
Yeah.
Just bring that on, but it's already dropping, so I think it's a good development. But I don't know about the Sanders issue, because the payment that's the issue, right? Where's the money?
That's always the issue when it comes to those types of proposals. Like I know he also has like free college, universal healthcare. At the end of the day, it always comes down to how do you pay for these things and how do you implement them. So, but that was it for our questions. So thank you for interviewing.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Have a good one.
And then we're going to ask you, our last question is about Bernie Sanders, actually. His proposal to cancel student debt, which is about like $1.6 trillion. We're just wondering what you guys think about that proposal, whether you think it would have a chance of being implemented and whether it'd be a good thing.
I'm sure it could be implemented, and it'd be great for like a lot of people who like want to go to school, because they're constantly encouraging us to go to college, and like throughout the years more and more people are clearly going to college, but we can't all afford it. Like, we're not all Donald Trump's kids, but there's something that could definitely help.
Yeah, this would be canceling the debt of everyone who already went to school also. So it's like it would go along with his free college going forward. Anyone that has debt right now would be canceled.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, you think that would be good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really support that, because our country has one of the highest debts in education, and education here is so expensive. I'm not really sure exactly how that would be implemented, but I think that's definitely worth it for all of us middle class Americans. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for interviewing. That was good. Yeah. So the last question we're going to ask you is about Bernie Sanders. He has a new policy proposal about eliminating all student debt in the U.S., and that's about $1.6 trillion. And we're just wondering your opinion on that, like whether you think it's good or bad.
I think eliminating the debt is a nice idea, especially if it's from Bernie Sanders. He must have known something when he came up with the idea. You said it was $1.6 trillion. Yeah, it's a huge amount of money, and I think it will be good for the country.
I think that kind of money on that project, it will be worth it.
You guys seem to just have a lot of trust in Bernie Sanders. Like, how did that really come up? Like, what made you like him so much?
I like old people. I like old people because they're more experienced. Like they're more experienced than Trump because he's a CEO of a bunch of companies, but Bernie Sanders was in politics for a long time, so we're familiar with him and their action.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Like, he's older than us. Like, from your grandparents, you like the advice from your grandparents. So at that moment, Bernie will bring us a lot of new stuff that will help the United States as a better country.
All right. Thank you guys for doing the interview. Yeah.
And then our last question: have you heard of Bernie Sanders' plan to eliminate $1.6 trillion of student debt? He announced it like a week ago.
Yeah, I heard.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it would be a great thing for students, but I don't know how he's going to do it, and I haven't really looked into it.
So you'd want to know more about how exactly it would be funded or enacted before you'd fully be on board.
Yes.
All right. So that's it for our questions. So thank you.
All right. And then our last question is going to be about Bernie Sanders. Recently, he proposed a plan to cancel all student debt in the United States. It comes down to like $1.6 trillion. We're just wondering what you think about that, whether you think it's a good idea.
I'm assuming that's going to come from taxpayer money.
Yeah. I believe what he says is going to be a tax on Wall Street gambling and other things to pay for it.
I think that's extreme liberalism, and there needs to be some sort of balance.
Okay. So that's not something you would be interested in, really? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for doing the interview.
Thank you.
And then my last question has to do with Bernie Sanders' proposal that he came out with a few weeks ago that would eliminate all student debt in the U.S., like $1.6 trillion. Do you have any like strong thoughts or opinions on the implications of that?
Yeah, I think I don't know the actual like economics of it, but I think it would be good to like help limit student debt for people coming right out of college.
So you'd say, like, in general, you'd probably support a proposal like that, but you'd want to see how it's funded and stuff like that?
Yeah.
All right. So that was it for our questions. So
all right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for watching the Zach and Matt Show. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Make sure you check out our other college interviews, which we'll be releasing later this week.